Hi, everyone. Welcome to CMO Chats. My name is Kelly Hopping, and I'm the Chief Marketing Officer at DemandBase.
Hi, Kelly. Tell us a little bit about you and your role at DemandBase.
Yeah, so I've been here about 13 months, and I lead marketing. And for us, that means everything from brand to demand, all the way through our SDR team, who works inbound leads and hunts for new opportunities.
Tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into marketing.
I never intended to be a marketer. I actually was an engineer in college, industrial engineering. I was good at math and science. I didn't actually want to be an engineer, but I was good at it. So I did that degree. And then I took an internship my senior year to do product development at Sabre, which was the reservation system that's inside American Airlines and all that. And the day before I started, I got a phone call from my boss, my summer intern boss. And he said, hey, we had a reorg and I'm no longer the VP of product development. I'm now the VP of product marketing. Do you want to do marketing with me for the summer instead? And I was like, sure. And I've been in marketing ever since. So that's how I ended up there.
Wow, that's fascinating. From engineering to marketing, pretty total different fields. Yeah. What does DemandBase do, Kelly?
DemandBase is, we are a leader in account-based go-to-market for B2B enterprises. So what that means is we are account-based sales and marketing provider. We provide data insights and a platform to apply those in action through marketing, selling, and advertising motions for B2B companies, mostly kind of, mid-market and upmarket enterprise and big strategic accounts.
What is your main marketing focus at the moment?
You hate to say it, it's always, there's always pipeline, right? At some point we need to give enough pipeline and generate enough for our sellers to be able to close and hit their quotas and targets. So that's always the big focus. Part of that is making sure that you're targeting the right accounts. So it's not just about pipeline, but it's pipeline from our ICP and making sure that we're hitting the right types of industries, the right types of decision makers, and the right types of right size companies, right need states, right complexities, their product lines, all that kind of stuff. That's when real pipeline comes through. We convert higher that way, they retain longer, they grow faster. So those are the ones we want to go after. That's a big thing. The other big priority has been fixing our brand. Our brand was, our old brand was out of touch with an enterprise and upmarket strategy. And so we spent the last year reframing our whole brand, changing the look and feel, changing our messaging, our positioning, the way we talk about our products. And then all of that was sort of wrapping around a portfolio enhancement that made the product more powerful for both sellers and marketers. So those are kind of the big focus. And obviously those two things grab everything else, right? It means product marketing is super important. It means the content we create is super important. It means the value journey that we put our customers on when they sign on with us and the content we create through that journey is super important. It means that our whole digital strategy is important. And we run DemandBase on DemandBase. And so it's really important too that we know and optimize how we use the product so that we can, one, be customer zero and feed it back to our product teams, but also that we can write really relevant messaging and copy for our customers because we know the pain points that they're struggling with.
How do you define success in marketing?
We have a few big KPIs. I think they're aligned to kind of those big focus areas, right? Certainly brand perception in the market. Are we being considered for RFPs? Do the analysts recognize us as a leader? Does earned media want to pick up stories on us? Do they see us as a thought leader? Do they trust our vision as sort of the future of the category? Those are all brand elements. So that brand perception is really important. And then of course, pipeline, and not just pipeline, but really pipeline growth, pipeline attainment amongst our target accounts. And then, of course, our conversion rates to make sure that we're being as efficient as possible from lead all the way through to closed one.
What would you say is the biggest challenge that marketers face today?
There's so many. I think that's the biggest challenge in marketing is that marketing wears about 40 different hats and has lots of different audiences and lots of different pulls on their capacity and their time. So I think the biggest challenge, though, is I think it's that the playbook gets reinvented every few years. And right now, the playbook of what's working in marketing is not what worked 2 years ago or 4 years ago or 6 years ago. And so there's this constant need to reinvent. Our buyers get more savvy. And so, they click on ads less. They want to be retargeted less. They don't read emails. They are being hit up from every different channel. And so how do you get customers or prospects to hear you when we're all kind of smarter than marketing these days. And so I think that's the biggest challenge, which means you have to experiment a lot. Like an event that worked a year ago may not work today. An experiential event may work, but the big, large trade show doesn't anymore. The paid search that used to work like crazy, you could just amp up paid search if you needed volume. Now people don't click on paid ads, or if they do, they tend to be SMBs or transactional or just sort of tire kickers. They're not actually have high conversion to closed won. So just all the things have changed. And so now we're constantly retesting. And I think that's the hardest part when you have really, really talented staff, you have really, really motivated people, all with good intent, all trying to hit their numbers, but all having to test and figure out what's working now. It's a different ballgame.
Now let's talk about marketing's relationship with sales. So out of all marketing initiatives that you are in charge of, which one would you say your sales department traditionally has been more grateful for or excited about?
Well, that's a good question. We're really, really big on sales and marketing alignment here. It's something we talk about a lot. One, because I'm in the account-based go-to-market space, which by definition is sales and marketing alignment. It's about bringing marketers and sellers to surround the same accounts. And so anything that we're doing in lockstep with them on that, on growing that account. So they love when we do field marketing events. We took 40 customers to Justin Timberlake a couple weeks ago, and sales loves that. They're able to spend time, build relationship at the concert, carried into pipeline. It goes beyond an email or a phone call. They love things like that. They love roundtables like we do. We've done with you guys, like in New York. They love big events where we have a big brand presence and they feel super proud because then they kind of get to represent a really incredible booth, a really incredible event. Like at Forrester last year, we had an amazing booth. We were right by main traffic, so we had a lot of volume. We had our own private kind of cafe and space that was packed all day long and had a big party there. And then we did a custom hat fitting event, and we got to invite like top customers or top prospects to come in, and we did custom cowboy hats for all of them. And that was really cool. So I think any of those kind of high touch, very bespoke type events, I think go a long way, especially as you move up market into the enterprise and those big, multi-billion-dollar accounts.
Which marketing strategies have wielded the most success in terms of engagement and lead generation or opportunity generation?
Competitive takeout campaigns work really, really well, right? I mean, I think it depends on the category that you're in. For us, people are either everybody sort of knows or has dabbled in account-based marketing. And so I think the question now is it's less of a category sell, like convincing someone that they need to be on account-based, and more on why you should choose demand-based over competitors. And I think those campaigns do really, really well because everybody's confused, right? Everybody wants to know, well, just tell me which one's better. Just tell me what, like, oh yeah, I've had those frustrations with your competitor. I'm so happy that y'all are answering it here. I think it feels more, just more grounded in what they're really experiencing. So I think those have worked really well. And then I'll say anything thought leader does really well too. When we talk about things like that are challenging for sales and marketing leaders, whether it's alignment, whether it's growth, whether it's building a strategy, whether it's anything around the future of ABM or how is AI going to affect my job, or anything that's kind of big themes like that, I think they really gravitate to, because I think people are looking to, one, they're looking to learn. I think a lot of marketers are learners, and two, they're looking to a partner who's thinking ahead and is going to be relevant in 5-10 years.
Who is your ICP at DemandBase?
Our ICP is companies over $100 million in revenue, and all the way up, who tend to be in certain industries. There's certain industries that speak more ABM than others. So financial services is big, healthcare is big, certainly tech, of course, is big, and software, insurance. I mean, some of these companies that have kind of big marketing focus areas where they really want to know who's on their site and who's in the market for what they're selling. So those are kind of the industries. And then I think, and who have a pretty decent investment in the tech stack. So ones who are using Salesforce or HubSpot or Gong or Workato or Marketo or whatever it is, they're using kind of these big MarTech tools. And then from a behavior perspective, it's typically customers who have pretty complex sales cycle. They maybe a long sales cycle. They probably have a pretty large average deal size. They have multiple product lines. They have multiple buyers in their profile, meaning like their buying group is complex. It's not just a one and done because of the price tag. It tends to be more robust than that. So I think that's really who our customer is. We want to help those customers with really complex things get to their target customer faster. Because right now, if when you have all those complexities, then it's hard to find the right customer, and you can't just spray and pray like you've done in the past. And so what we help them do is get to those right customers with the right message at the right time based on the right intent signals.
Now let's talk a bit about events. In terms of events, what's the most successful event or engagement piece you've hosted, and why?
From a large event, like one that we attended, not hosted, we had the most at the Gartner for Marketers event this past year. It was massive for us. We'd never done it before. It was a test. But I think in our move up market to the higher enterprise, they just gravitate towards the Gartner event. And that turned out to be a really, really great investment for us. Forrester's always a big one as well. So those two trade shows are sort of our big ones. In terms of the ones that we've hosted, we've done a few. We've tried all different sizes. We're doing a big, and this is sort of like just news for you at the moment. But we're planning to do a big user conference next year, which we're super excited about. But we haven't done one the last couple of years. And so we've been instead doing more of these local regional things. We just did a go-to-market Eras tour around the US and had some great engagement on some of those. We've done some partner events. We've done, we find when it's really, really targeted and there's a shared interest, it's really powerful. So, we have financial services target for us. So we had a really intimate, very fancy, nice dinner in New York recently with a bunch of banks that we, the big names in the investment banking world. And those were really, really powerful because you develop these relationships. They feel like you understand their market and they feel heard, and there's some shared understanding of the people at the table. So those, I think anything you can get as bespoke and targeted and custom as possible, I think is really powerful.
How do you measure an event's ROI?
So we track marketing contribution. We use a multi-touch model on our side. So this is across the board. This isn't just events. But so what we look at is how much pipeline was influenced by this event. So for instance, if someone participates in our event, that obviously gets logged in DemandBase and Salesforce and tracked through. And so then we can see, like, it may be one of many touch points, but that event will get some percentage. So if we close that deal for $300,000 and that event was one of 10 things, and it gets the 30,000 credit or whatever of influence to that. So we run events that way. So we constantly track, and we track contribution to pipeline and then also track contribution to closed one. And so that's how we do, I think, any of our events, paid content programs, anything we do is tied to a multi-touch attribution model.
What are the most significant challenges you face when hosting events?
Probably just finding the right audience and getting people to come out. I think it's different now that a lot of us are remote. Getting people out of their house at night to go downtown to dinner, or to go, to a concert, or to go, or to leave their desk and go to a breakfast for, a couple hours, I think can be kind of difficult. And it's not about getting people to register, it's getting people to show up. So I think most people today, I'd be interested to hear what industry averages are on registration versus show up rate. But I feel like it used to be 75%. I feel like now it's like 50. And so you expect even digital things, virtual things, you still get people sign up to get the content later, but they're hoping there's a recording and they get it sent to them, but they have no intention of actually coming to the event or participating. And that's really, really prevalent. So it's just figuring out how do you balance the numbers, right? Like we had a big event in New York yesterday, and we wanted to have between 150 and 200 in the room. So we registered like 300 with the hope that 200 show up. So I think that's probably the biggest challenge right now is just the planning for show up rates.
What career advice would you give to anyone starting in the marketing industry?
That's a good question. So marketing, I think is to be eyes wide open. Marketing has both an art and a science to it. And there's different roles that are one or the other. Some of the roles get both, but there's a lot of some roles that are pure art, some that are more pure science. And I think you just recognizing that there's something for sort of everyone in marketing. But I think depending on what you want to ultimately maybe be one day, if your goal is to be a CMO or a senior marketing leader, my advice is to do as many laterals around the various marketing functions before you get to, say, the director level. I think once you get to director, you sort of get typecast as something. If you've been like a copywriter and then a content writer and then a content marketer and now you're the director of content, you're kind of in a content path. Whereas if you've been a content marketer and you ran campaigns and you did paid media for a while and you worked on field marketing events, then when you come up to the director level, you're so well-rounded that you have a path all the way to CMO or as high as you want because you've touched so many different parts of marketing. So I just encourage, I know people want to do this like straight to the top promotion, but I think as much as you can move laterally around and get some diversity of experience, you'll be such a better leader when you go further in the organization. And don't rush that. That's my other advice is I think when you rush it, because you can master hard skills pretty fast in marketing, soft skills can't be rushed. And so take that time while you're doing the laterals to develop situational awareness and your leadership profile and figuring out who you are and the way you want to run and how you want to behave and how you operate under stress and like get all your leadership stuff worked out during those lateral moves so that when you come into that role, you're actually ready, both hard and soft skill wise.
What do you believe is the biggest opportunity for CMOs today that might not have been available in the past?
It's interesting. There's a lot of debate right now about CROs or whatever, our chief go-to-market officers, these concepts of sort of marketing and sales sitting together under one roof. I'm not necessarily a believer in that. I'm not opposed to it. I've just never really worked in that environment. I've always kind of had equal seating at the table with marketing and sales. But it'll be interesting to see if that becomes a path because, I think sales makes every marketer better. So if you can ever have an experience in selling, I think is helpful because it could open the doors if that's the way the market moves. But as long as it stays separate, even just understanding what sales is going through is a big thing. I think the other thing is we're trying to talk about as a team right now is how to prioritize innovation because what's small today, I think is going to be really big. So for instance, everything AI is doing in the marketing world, I think we by default go to Gen AI. Like we go to like, okay, how can this help me write things faster? But the reality is like it can learn brand voice and tone. It can learn your messaging. Like it can augment your data for your SDRs to outreach. It can automate a lot of your processes. It can, auto dial your phone. It can there's so many things. So thinking about that, what that allows is you as a CMO to build an organization that can focus on innovation and not always and automate some of the repeatable things. Maybe could operate a lot more efficiently. Because I'm not talking about cost savings of like less people because you can replace with robots. I don't think that's the future. But I think the future is that marketers are so bogged down in repeatable processes that if you could automate those things, you could actually do better creative, better content, better campaigns, more compelling product marketing, more compelling breakthrough thought leadership. So I think that's really where the future of CMOs can go is if we can figure out how to tap into all that power.
What's a piece of traditional leadership advice that you believe does not apply to modern CMOs?
Leadership advice. I struggle a little bit with, and I don't know if it's leadership advice, but I have struggled with where to play on especially as a female leader, where to play on the sort of likable, badass scale, right? Especially as a female leader sitting at the exec table, you want to be seen as effective, commanding, decisive, all the things that you want, intelligent. But especially as women, maybe men have the same thing, but as women, we also would like to preferably be liked in the job too. And sometimes there's some tension there. And so I don't know if it's great advice. I just try to think about like how to be how to be tough and commanding and yield all that woman power, leadership power, and balance it with being really approachable and really authentic. And I think that's a battle these days, because pipeline has more pressure on it than ever before, especially the last 2 or 3 years. There's a lot of pressure from the top because so many companies are struggling to hit their numbers. And so taking that sort of like stress and anxiety that's going on at the top and figuring out how to push that urgency down to your team, but still be helpful servant leader in the process while driving a sense of urgency. I don't know exactly what the advice is there, except that that's where I'm struggling with how to be or not struggling, but that's one thing that I'm just conscious of, is like, I want to be both a leader that they respect and enjoy working with, but I also want to be impactful and hit the numbers and drive deliverables. And it's a challenge, and I don't know how to do one versus the other, because I think either one of them alone is not sustainable.
What, in your opinion, does the future of marketing look like?
I think I think that the needs are not going to be all that different, right? You're still supporting an organization, you're still supporting sales, you're still having a need to kind of make sales love you, which is sort of my general feeling of what marketing should be doing. And that doesn't mean that, I'm giving them just bottom of the funnel leads every time. That means that I'm giving them a brand they're proud of. I'm giving messaging that they can repeat and learn and know. I'm giving them product positioning that's relevant. I'm giving them events that they're proud to be at. I'm giving them enough high quality pipeline that they can hit their targets, sort of all the things. I give them simple pricing and packaging that they can use. So all those things I think are the same. I think the difference is that the shift is going to be different. I think content marketing is going to continue to become a bigger and bigger need. It is a shared service between, on the brand side, thought leadership side, product side, as well as on the demand gen side. And so I think there's going to be, so the organizations may not look that different, but I think and then I think more and more SDR teams or BDR teams are going to be pulling into marketing to have that end-to-end ownership, because more and more CMOs are going to be held to pipeline, not to leads. Leads is dead now. And so they're like, okay, so if I need to hold the pipeline, I need to have responsibility for all the people that get to pipe, which is all the SDR teams, which have traditionally sat more in sales. So I think we'll see more of that so that we get full empowerment all the way through the pipeline. And then, like I said, I think content is going to scale up. I think brand, depending on what kind of business you're in, plays various roles. I think growth is going to be really important, but I think it's going to be more account-based, more field marketing, more intimate event-driven, less sort of blanket paid media, less like, it'll be a lot of SEO, and of course, to get that kind of traffic, but less of sort of the transactional paid work that we've done in the past. So I think it'll be more video. I think it'll be more content. I think content is king. It makes such a difference. And I say content, not just in the written form, but in video, and it's post sales too. Content becomes so much more important when you sign on a customer. How do we get them on board? How do we get them up to speed? How do we get them using our product? How do we make them sticky because they're so integrated with the product? And marketing covers all of that.
And now for my last question, how would you describe the role of the CMO in one word, and why?
Alignment, maybe. I was in a CMO panel yesterday, or a CXO chit chat actually, and we were talking about really the hardest thing and the main thing that we do is drive alignment, right? You're the center piece between what products are coming out, what sales is selling, what the CX team is upgrading or upselling, and you're the one who's then taking and making sure that you are prioritizing the right products with the right message to the right audience, enabling sales with the right content, building campaigns that drive the right leads and the right pipeline for the sellers to close, making sure that there's the right content for your CX team to grow your customers. And so I think all of that, if you do it I think where marketing gets in trouble is when they sort of close the doors of transparency and just start operating in their world. I think people want to know what marketing's working on because they're supporting so many different teams. And so making sure that cross-functional alignment is in lockstep is critical. And so I feel like even more so than beautiful creative or great words or great campaigns or anything else is really about, are we driving the things that matter most to the rest of our company? And I think that alignment is really, really critical.
Thank you so much for that interview, Kelly. Those were all my questions.